Is it possible that a person with a strong personality in life can continue to exert that personality even in death? This is Valence House in Dagenham in Essex. Parts of the house date back over 600 years, and it appears that inside the house, and indeed in the grounds, there's at least one, if not two, ghosts. One of them is of a woman with an immensely strong personality. When she was alive, she liked to control things, and it appears she still likes to be in control now. So let's go inside and find out more.
The main ghost for this place is a lady called Eliza Luxmore, and she moved in with her daughter Helen and Helen's husband Thomas. And very shortly afterwards they came to Valence House, so she spent most of her daughter's married life living with her daughter and her husband. She died in 1913.
In life, Eliza Luxmore was the indomitable matriarch of a large family. She was feared by many, but was nevertheless devoted to her family.
Her daughter was apparently very, very scared of her. She lived with her daughter and her son-in-law for almost all of their married life. And she had a poor companion with her, which is apparently a poor relative. And the poor relative was very tall, Mrs. Luxmore was very small, and the poor companion used to follow her around. And Mrs. Luxmore used to like to pretend that the poor companion had done something wrong, and she'd throw her out of the house, and she'd end up in the workhouse. Everybody else knew this was just a joke, except for the poor companion, who'd be reduced to a nervous state for most of the time.
Sightings of Eliza date back to the early 1900s, and have continued right up to the present day.
The person who first saw her was her own great-granddaughter, a girl called Josephine, who used to visit her grandparents Thomas and Helen here at Valence House. And because upstairs was always bedrooms, she was always refused permission to come upstairs. And she says that one day she sneaked upstairs, she came down the corridor, looked into the room, and as she looked into the room there was an old lady in there who was rolling things up and packing them into a chest on the four-poster bed in the room. And she was a bit embarrassed about being caught upstairs, so she smiled at the woman smiled back, and then she went downstairs. And then things got the better of her. She was far too curious, so she asks one of her aunts, "Who's the old lady upstairs?" And the aunt apparently replied, "There's only one old lady in this house, and that's your grandma." But then they all rushed upstairs, searched the place from top to bottom, and when they didn't find anybody at all, they sat her down, gave her the family photograph album, made her flick through, and the woman she actually identified was her own great-grandmother, Eliza Luxmore, who died in that very room. Well, she seems to have been first seen after that during the Second World War, when the house was being used for fire observation. Her bedroom was being used as the bedroom for the fire observation men, and one of them apparently went out into the corridor late at night for a call of nature, and there was an ear-piercing scream. And when his comrades went out to ask what was the matter, he was shaking in the corridor, and he'd apparently looked to the end of the corridor and seen a woman standing there. And she just disappeared, and apparently the corridor was icy cold at that time. So probably she was a little bit upset by the people being in her bedroom at that period. She's been seen several times over the last few years as the house has become more and more busy. We've had lots of children in. And she's been seen during the daytime, because of course we're not open at night, in different parts of the upstairs, just by visitors casually passing through.
We brought along psychic investigator Gloria Conroy to see if she could find any evidence to support the theory that the house is haunted by Eliza Luxmore. What she discovered was that the house holds more than one spirit. In fact, Gloria may have picked up on the spirit of Eliza's husband, who was a famed naval captain.
Downstairs, at the bottom of the stairs, there's a very, very strong masculine influence. It's a very military-style influence. He seems to be very dominant, very strong, but also a lot of people liked him. I got the feeling he was very much respected and very much liked, but he was sort of bounding up the stairs 3 steps at a time. But it's a very strong influence. As you come higher, it's a very feminine influence. The house just changes completely.
So, there is a definite female presence upstairs. Could it be Eliza? Is she watching over her former home?
I got the feeling we were being watched very, very strongly. I stood there just talking to people, but I was aware of a female presence that seemed to be slightly behind me, and it was quite strong, and it was trying to come in and talk.
So we've heard Gloria's thoughts in walking around the house, but we've got something else for her to have a look at, and indeed a feel of. Gloria, we've actually got the actual cap that Eliza, which is said to be the ghost here, used to actually wear. So we want to tell her, feel of that, and do a bit of psychometry and see what you pick up. So are you picking anything up yet?
Yeah, someone very, very, very dominant. Very dominant. I'm getting a stick as well. And I'm also getting somebody who's people are actually in fear of. Yeah, I would have been scared of her. This feeling is quite...
Well, that certainly does seem to time very much with the sort of personality we've heard that she had. Thank you very much. So we know she's here, but the question is why? Is she protecting her home from the intruders, or are her appearances inevitable given the strength of her personality in life?
Well, the area's changed an awful lot since the time she died, because as soon as the First World War was over, they built a massive council housing estate across the whole of Dagenham, the largest council estate in the world at the time. Well over 20,000 people poured in just a very few years. And the place was compulsorily purchased, and it became the town hall for Dagenham. Possibly the reason why she appears is to do with the greater influx of people in the house. In the Second World War, they're actually living in her bedroom itself. And nowadays we have lots more people coming in looking at her rooms, whereas before we were shut and we'd only get perhaps 100 or 200 people in a year. So perhaps it's just due to the increased traffic through the house.
When somebody has been very, very strong in life, and then they pass over, there's nothing to say that your personality is going to change. And some people are so drawn and so attached to one particular area that they come back, not just once for a farewell visit, but again and again and again. And instead of going on to learn through the spirit world, they will actually stay. They much prefer this plane. The house overall, I think, is very happy, but there are pockets of discontent, a little bit tearful, a little bit sort of, why has life done this to me, and why am I sort of left behind? It's difficult. There's traces of people still left here, and I mean real traces of people, a live spirit that would actually wander. This isn't a recorded spirit, this is a real spirit that wanders, but I only pick it up spasmodically as I walk round.
Mrs. Luxmore liked to control people a lot when she was alive. I think she likes to control people now that she's dead as well.
We all know that ghosts don't like change, not just to a building they're haunting, but to the surrounding area too. And there's been a lot of changes around this area with a huge council estate being built around the house. We also know that the ghost here was a lady with a very strong personality. In life, she liked to be in control, and it appears that even in death, she's still trying to control what goes on around here.